Hey, welcome back to Carl Prusa MMA. I'm Carl Prusa, and I am now with Miss 24K Hannah Goldy. Hannah, getting back into action. XFC 50 Friday night in Lakeland, Florida. We're getting towards the end of training camp here. Obviously, just a couple days away from the fight. What is the mindset like this close to being back in action?
I'm just excited. It's been a really long time since I fought in Florida. And I think that's probably what I'm most excited about. Like I've been saying, like the past week, it just feels weird because normally at this point in time, I'm like getting ready to get on a plane tomorrow. And like I fought in Vegas mostly. I was in London, a couple fights ago, and that was a trip. But like generally, I've been in Vegas, like fighting at the Apex. So it's kind of like I've gotten used to that routine. And now I'm like, it's Monday and I'm like not packing my suitcase and I'm kind of like scheduling all my stuff for the week. And I'm like feeling like super relaxed and just, grateful to be fighting in my home state. Well, I mean, the state that I reside in. I'm from Vermont originally, but definitely kind of have adopted Florida as my own.
You train over at Fusion Excel with a bunch of killers in the UFC. Should we expect a lot of those people showing some love and showing up to Lakeland Friday?
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that we're gonna have a good group out there, so it should be a good night.
So you've been at this world of combat sports for quite a while now. How did you find your way getting into the world of mixed martial arts?
Yeah, it's been like 10 years now, which is crazy. I started training like cardio kickboxing when I was like 21 and I was living up in New York City. And I moved to Florida probably like a few months after I started doing that. And I was like, when I moved down, I moved to Clearwater and I was bartending. And I was like, I really liked doing that. Like, I really want to try to find a gym where I can just like go in and get a good workout. And I found a UFC gym and just kind of continued with the cardio kickboxing, but kind of got more into like Muay Thai at that point in time and was probably training for like maybe another 2 months. And I got kind of like pressured into like taking my first fight. And it was funny because actually my first fight was in Orlando when I still lived in the Tampa Bay area. And I remember I was like driving to Orlando and I was anticipating having a kickboxing fight. And then I got to the venue and it ended up like changing and I ended up boxing a different girl. And like, it's just funny. Like, that's kind of how amateurs were like 10 years ago. It was just kind of like you showed up and fought. Like, it wasn't the way that it is now, where it's like just, most amateur promotions are run better than like pro promotions were 10 years ago. So I feel like the younger kids coming up now don't realize how great that they have it. Like, we used to fight like at gas stations, we used to fight like in the back of gyms. Like, it was just different when I was an Amy. But yeah, I just remember that first fight being like, damn, like I really really love this. And I ended up meeting a bunch of people that trained in Orlando, and that was kind of like the progression. Like, I started coming to Orlando more to train, and it just kind of like went from there. I feel like it was really fate, honestly.
Your first pro fight, you fought over at Island Fights for Dean Toole, and you took on who would be another UFC fighter, Miss Jillian Robertson.
Yeah.
Overall, you're able to pick out the victory, but what was that fight like for you?
So at that point in time, like obviously Jillian's one of my best friends now, so it's just different. But at that point in time, she was like the most badass amateur. Like, I remember just like looking up to her so much and like thinking she was so good. And I remember when Dean was like, okay, like you're gonna make your debut, and I'm like, all right, cool, bet. Like, we're gonna get a good opponent. And then like he sends Jillian's name and I'm like terrified. I'm like, I don't want to fight her. And I was with Odin's dad, Alex, at the time, and he's like, no, we're gonna fight her, like we're taking this fight. And I remember Dean was super excited about the matchup, everybody was super excited about the matchup. And I get asked that question a lot, and I just feel like, again, like I use the word grateful so much, like in relation to my relationship with MMA, but that's really just, I just feel a lot of gratitude towards the sport and the people that I've met through it, because it's honestly just changed my life and changed me as a person for the better. But I'm just so grateful that that ended up being my debut. One, because Jillian's so talented, and like going into like my next few regional fights, I was like, damn, like I just fought this bitch. Like, I'm really not worried about fighting anybody else. But also just, like being able to like form that relationship with her, and just the whole experience in itself. Like, it was a test, it was a mental test, it was a physical test, and I just feel like it set me up, and put me in a good spot for, the fights that came after that. So it was a great experience.
Do you remember that phone call that you received saying that you're going to be fighting on the Contender Series?
I do actually. Yeah, I remember. It was funny because Abe called me, and I remember I had been training like, man, I don't even remember how long it had been, but it had been months. And I'm like training and I'm like waiting for a call, waiting for a fight, waiting for an opportunity. And I remember like I was driving like my fucking old BMW. I had a 3 Series that literally like every time I drove it was like shutting down. I had no fucking money. I had like a few $100s in the bank. And I was like, shit, like I feel like I'm gonna have to start doing something else. Like I don't think I can like wait around for a fight anymore. I think I need to like get a real job and like, you know, start thinking about doing something else for a little bit and just kind of see what happens. And then literally like on that car ride, like my phone rings and Abe's like, Contender Series, like it was like 3 months out, and I'm like, bet. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, fuck yeah, like this is awesome. And at that time I wasn't at Fusion too much at that point. I was literally training out of like a garage and the CrossFit Tough as Nails with one of my coaches, Hank Porche, who's actually going to be in my corner this weekend with Julian and Bruno. And Mitchell Chamali was one of my main training partners at that time, Jason Carapolucci. And it was really just like 3 or 4 of us like training in a warehouse, like getting ready for Contender Series. But I knew at that point too, like I was broke as shit and I had to figure out a way to like put a roof over my kid's head. And if I lost that fight, I made 5 grand. If I won that fight, I made 10 grand. And I was like, well, I gotta fucking win this fight because I need to be able to put a down payment on a house and, you know, like get the shit going. So yeah, I do remember that call specifically. Like I'll never forget that day because that was like, you know, probably like the biggest turning point in my MMA career for sure.
You've alluded to it a little bit, but a lot of people in this day and age don't really realize the sacrifices that mixed martial artists must make throughout their career. And I mean, especially when you're trying to break into the big shows and then the regional route. What gets through? How does you get through it? What motivates you to get through the sacrifices needed to be a mixed martial artist?
I mean, yeah, like it is crazy because there's such a small percentage of people that make a decent living from MMA, you know, and it's kind of like you're really, really struggling and you're really, really sacrificing like until you're not, you know, like you're kind of just like waiting for that break. And like whether that break is like one big fight, whether that break is like you've grown your brand enough on social media to be able to make money, like, yes, through fighting, but also through other avenues, like you're really just like honestly sacrificing like most of your career until like you hit that point where you're like, okay, cool, like I'm making enough money where I can like survive and like live comfortably. But I mean shit, like for me, like I would say it's like the wins, but like honestly it's not the wins. Like to me it's like the grind. Like I enjoy the grind. I enjoy this life. Like I don't want to work a 9 to 5. Like I don't want to like go back to like a different lifestyle. I enjoy being a professional athlete. I enjoy waking up and like dropping my kid off at school and going to the gym. Like it terrifies me thinking about working like a normal job, you know, like that is like my motivation. Like I don't want to have to do that. I enjoy my life. I like the way that it is right now, and like I'll be damned if like I have to go back to like, you know, like not living the life that I want to live. Like I've created this lifestyle for myself and for my family, and like it's just what I want. And you know, that's kind of what motivates me too, is like I feel like time is one of the most valuable things in life, or the most valuable thing in life. And like at this point I kind of like have that luxury of like being able to spend my time doing what I want to do, and I don't want to not be able to do that anymore. So yeah, it's like I've been grinding for a long time, and I feel like at the end of the day, like win or lose a fight, like I'm like reaping the benefits from my hard work over the past 10 years because I'm living the life that I want to.
We last saw you in action at the Fight Pass Invitational. We were able to pick up a victory there. Overall, how did you enjoy that experience?
I mean, I adore the UFC, you know what I mean? Like their staff and everybody, like I always say like my favorite or the most amazing thing to come out of this sport and what I've done in this sport is like the relationships that I've created with the people that I've met, you know? So I totally enjoyed my experience with the FPI. You will definitely see me on another FPI for sure. I'm hoping maybe to get on one in May if they can find me an opponent, but if not, I would definitely like to continue grappling for them and just the grappling scene in general. But it was fun, you know. I really really like competing at the Apex. I like fighting there, and grappling there was super fun too. The whole experience was great. you know, like I said, it's the UFC. So like everything is just like so smooth. They know how to run everything. And it's a great experience. And my opponent was amazing. I love her to death. Amanda's super sweet. So yeah, that was an awesome experience. And I cannot wait to grapple for them again.
So you're taking on Tayde Garcia on Friday. Overall, what do you think of her as an opponent?
You know, I'm excited for the fight. I think, you know, she looks like she's down to scrap on the feet. It looks like she is good at jiu-jitsu. So I'm just excited to get in there and kind of showcase my skills as a mixed martial artist. You know, I feel like in all like even today, like I don't feel like I've put a performance together that I'm like super proud of. Like I just want to go out and showcase my ability in every area on the feet, my wrestling, my grappling. Like I think that it's all going to come together. And yeah, you know, like I'm excited and I respect her as an opponent. Every fight that I've ever had, like literally from my first fight as an amateur, I remember like always thinking like, oh, I'm treating this like I'm fighting Joanna. Like I always used to say that as an amateur, and that's still like true to this. You know, I never count anybody out. I think that she's tough. I think that, you know, she's decent everywhere, and I'm just excited to, you know, put my skills out there and, you know, put on the best performance that I can.
This XFC card is really stacked. I mean, I think 3 former UFC veterans on the card, some Bellator guys, some high-ranked regional prospects. What is it like being on a card with this high caliber?
I mean, obviously, like fighting for the UFC, I've definitely been on a lot of cards with a lot of, you know, elite level athletes. So to me, it's like same shit, you know, like I feel like I'm surrounded by elite level fighters all the time. So it's just cool. I like being surrounded by talent, and you know, it's motivating, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
Now, with the win over Tade, do you think that gets you closer to maybe going back to the UFC?
I think I probably need at least 3 regional wins to get back uh to for me to like, you know, potentially get back into the UFC. I think probably, you know, 2 or 3 would probably be it, depending on how dominantly or viciously I win them. I don't think that this is going to be it, but I am honestly excited to fight regionally for a little bit. I think that I kind of got into the UFC a little bit early. Looking back on my career now, you know, obviously I was super excited for the opportunity, and I like I just said, like contender. I'm like waiting for contender, and then I got contender, and then I didn't get the contract on Contender Series, but then got the call right after, and I was super excited for my debut. And at that point in time, I thought that I was ready to be there. But now looking back and like seeing my evolution as a fighter and an athlete, like I don't think that I was ready when I got in, and I wish that I kind of had like taken my time more and fought regionally a little bit more and put it together a little bit more against, you know, lower caliber athletes, because it's been difficult for me, or it was difficult for me to try to, you know, become the mixed martial artist that I am against like the best girls in the world. So, and that's not to like say that there aren't amazing girls outside of the UFC, because WMMA is just, you know, skyrocketing and growing, and like the talent is insane now. But yeah, I'm excited to put some regional wins together.
Do you feel like your mindset maybe has changed at all since your departure from the UFC? Do you think maybe you've grown or evolved from that experience?
I think that my mindset and, you know, who I am as a person is growing and evolving and changing constantly on the daily. You know, I think that I kind of went into my last fight knowing that if I didn't win, I was going to get released. And I had made peace with that. You know, like there wasn't, like I said, I feel like everything that happens to you is like an opportunity for growth, and like you can learn from it. So instead of like being upset about getting cut, like I said, like I'm grateful now. I get to like go back to the drawing board and get better. Like, and that's what I need to do. Like I need to get better. So I think, you know, like it was just a motivator. It was a motivator for me to get back in the gym and work harder and just get better.
All right, Hannah, last question. In a perfect world, what goes down Friday night?
I mean, I'm definitely looking for a finish, and I really don't care where it is. Like, I'll finish her on the feet, I'll finish her on the cage, I'll finish her on the mat. Like, that's definitely what I'm looking for. So yeah,
All right, Hannah, well, I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you for jumping on here and talking with me today.
I appreciate you.